You know what I love just as much as a killer anime? A dope OP. Few things set the mood for what's to come and get the viewer hyped quite like a stellar musical number, especially as a first introduction. So in a brief pivot to something a little bit less soapboxy, I figured we could spend a little bit of time going over the OPs I quite literally never skip when watching anime. First though, I want to give a huge shout out to Celestial Tier patron Scrub0 for selecting today's video topic. You're very much appreciated, and I had a blast revisiting a lot of this music. Hell, I ended up accidentally getting distracted and just jamming out instead of being productive. You'll hear more about Zero's opinions a little bit later, but if you'd like the opportunity to request a specific topic, consider heading over to the Somewhere Past Never Patreon page. Your support is much needed and greatly appreciated. Now, to make sure that this video isn't super long and to try to minimize my battles with the copyright system, I won't be going into literally every single song that I enjoy. Instead, I'm going to limit my opinions to one per franchise for the shows that have larger episode counts. To whittle down the list, I asked myself, what OPs would I be annoyed if someone skipped while we were watching anime together? Also, I'm sorry to disappoint the One Piece fans, but none of those will be making an appearance because I still haven't watched it. These aren't going to be in any particular order either based on some arbitrary ranking system, nor are we going to be moving alphabetically, so just bear with me. Let's go on ahead and start though. While I might not have always been the most entertained or even enthusiastic about Dragon Ball Super, this OP during the Tournament of Power never failed to get me hyped for what was to come, even if what was to come in that episode was just kinda mid. This one might not be the most iconic in the franchise, but it's the one that I find myself randomly humming the most. Come on, if you're a regular of this channel, you knew this one would make it onto the list. Not only do I refuse to skip it, I will literally always sing along to it. I can't hit some of the higher notes, but that doesn't stop me from trying. This one might be full of nostalgia, but I still think it's a total bop that aged very well. One of the smoothest OPs to ever grace Adult Swim, which is how I, and I imagine most of you, were introduced to the show. The production quality just oozes that early 2000s feel without coming across as dated, and the track in general can definitely be considered iconic in the anime scene. To be honest, there aren't terribly many Bleach OPs I find myself thinking about in the grand scheme of things. Most of them are pretty underwhelming, even when I went back to double check that I hadn't forgotten any of them. I actually find myself enjoying the ending tracks more often than the openings, but I do distinctly remember very much enjoying this OP for both the track and the visual since we were finally seeing the plot coming to a head. If Rapport had ended up being the OP for part 1 of Thousand Year Blood War, that would have been an easy slam dunk on the list, but oh well. I wonder if this one will raise a few eyebrows, but I really like this OP. I could have made the easy choice and dropped Silhouette on the list because sure, I never skipped that one either, but who doesn't like Silhouette? Blood Circulator has a fantastic rhythm, a delicious bass line, and I really love the way the track builds towards what feels like a triumphant second chorus. It gets me pumped every single time. Specifically, I'm a huge fan of the second version of this OP that focuses on Naruto and Sasuke. Between the music and the imagery, it just hits different. All three OPs for Mob are fantastic, with 99 being a kick-ass opener and 1 being a stellar closer. But there's just something about the way 99.9 is put together that just reaches a level beyond its counterparts. The music is funky, the visuals are nuts, and the lyrics are punchy but lead up to my favorite phrase of the entire song, which is "Your life is your own." I bump this one on my phone all the time. This one was pretty tough to decide which to slap on this list, since I also very much enjoy Everlasting Shine, but it came down to the fact that I have Guess Who Is Back on my phone. If it ends up being in my personal music library, then I genuinely enjoy it. This OP has some nice visual flair to it, and the structure of the song flows in a way that I was going to love. There's a kind of attitude to this one that I found myself digging, which surprised me because up until this point, I didn't really care about any of the OPs. To be real, I didn't expect to love this OP the way I do. I went in knowing One Punch Man was a satirical parody of the superhero genre, but god damn does this OP slap. From the insanely fluid visuals to the lyrics that basically give you the general premise of the show to the wonderful instrumentation, this is one of those songs that I wouldn't have minded if it stuck around for season 2. You cannot deny how good the way they sing the word hero at the end is. It really pulls the entire vibe together. Naturally, my favorite anime of all time also has an OP that wiggles onto this list. There are plenty of OPs that work for Fullmetal across both iterations, but this one truly captures the tone of the show as a whole. Everything about this song and the visuals are so crisp and flow together with a harmony that can be tough to find even in today's pool of popular anime. It makes me wish this one had covered more episodes of the anime, but for the portion of the story it's tied to, it works beautifully. I watched this anime recently with a friend who hadn't seen it before, and I refused to let them skip it even though we were binging. One thing I forgot to praise about Trigun Stampede was its unreasonably good OP. This song is probably tied for the smoothest jam on this list with another song that we'll get to later, and after the first time I heard it, I could not get it out of my head. I got to a point where I'd watch the OP 2 or 3 times before getting into the actual episode. The lyrics are perfect for a character like Vash, and while the visuals aren't as crazy as most of the things on this list, the song is what truly elevates it with its earworm status. We all know how much I hate King's Game, and if you're unfamiliar, you can check that out right here. Despite how terrible that anime is in quite literally every aspect, it did have a banger of an OP. Now, this band in general is just good, and it won't be the last time we talk about them in this video, but the track does a masterful job of setting the tone going in, particularly with the chorus. This song deserved to be attached to a far better anime, and it was the only highlight of the series. The visuals are meh, but damn if the track doesn't bang. I think what keeps this song in my rotation is how inspirational it sounds and feels, you know? There's a tangibility to it, like getting a pat on the back from someone who believes in you telling you to keep moving forward. That might sound corny, but that's the sensation I get when hearing this song, and when you pair it with the fluid visuals that Haikyuu is known for, it becomes a powerful combination that not only inspires you, but gets you to root for a bunch of kids playing volleyball as if you know them in real life. I didn't care much for the first OP, I would nod along to the second OP, but this one caught me off guard. The jazzy undertones and laid-back vibes during the verse before leading into a high-energy chorus were an instant winner for me. Dr. Stone has been one of my favorites over the past few years, and every time it comes to mind, I find myself humming along. It's so easy to remember the melody to this one that it becomes an earworm. Okay, I'll admit, when it comes to the Demon Slayer OPs, I'm kind of a basic bitch. I think all of the OPs are solid in their own ways, but none of them capture that same feeling as the first one. Lisa crushes it with the vocals, giving it a dreamlike quality at times before the high intensity of the chords comes crashing through your speakers to get you pumped up. Funny story actually, I was in bed with a former partner back when season 1 was airing, and while she was trying to nap, I figured I'd put my earbuds in and watch the latest episode. But I kept rewatching the OP, and after a few minutes I hear her go, "Why do you keep rewinding that part?" I thought she was asleep, so I was paying her no attention, but then I had to explain that I just really like the song and visuals. So yeah, it makes it onto this list. This one might also be super obvious, or maybe the outlier based on who you are, but holy hell, this song goes so hard for no reason. This is the kind of music I'm usually listening to genre and style-wise, so to have that suddenly combined with anime is always fantastic. I'm a big fan of mixing choral vocals into tracks like this, and as someone that's always wanted to learn to play the drums, I love the drum pattern from start to finish. I don't particularly care for the full version of the track, but the OP is a certified banger. That's not even touching on the visuals, which will give you goosebumps if you're a fan of the story, or how the lyrics paint a solid picture of the state of the story. This is another case where the visuals of the OP itself aren't anything to write home about. Not that they're bad, they just won't blow you away. But the music more than makes up for that. Just the drums and guitar at the beginning were more than enough to catch my attention before the rest of the instrumentation came in. Minda's voice flows over the music perfectly, and the way her high notes in the chorus mesh with the lyrics themselves make me feel like I could toss a car over a building. It's hands down the best OP in the series so far. Also, fun fact, Minda Rin got her start on YouTube doing covers, so hats off to her. My Hero has a fair bit of OPs that do qualify as bops or bangers depending on who you are, and I figured I'd stray away from some of the more popular or easy to guess ones and go with one of the more underrated entries. This song is lighthearted, which works even better as a calm before the storm type of deal, and the lyrics are also pretty wholesome in a way that I wasn't expecting. I listened to the full version of the song fairly regularly while working on content, and it's ended up in my phone's music library. The visuals are about what you'd expect from My Hero, balancing some silly and wholesome scenes with action set pieces. As a complete package, it very much works. I told you we'd be mentioning this band again, didn't I? So far, I like all of the OPs associated with Fire Force, but Mayday stuck out to me with just how heavy it is compared to Inferno, as well as the lyrics being entirely in English. The visuals are pretty phoned in, unfortunately, which is a huge shame because this OP could have been total dynamite if as much effort went into it as the ones that came before and the one that came after. The song by itself carries the second OP, and we thank it for its service. Masato's vocal range is frankly incredible, and the way the instrumentation is structured to take you on a ride would undoubtedly be a crazy experience live. The entire song is explosive in the best way possible. Persona 4 anime isn't exactly good, but this track certainly felt like a nice welcome back to that universe. Persona 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, and of all the new songs that appear over the course of the series, this one feels the most like it could fit on the game's OST. There's a playful bounciness to the instrumental that I've always been fond of, and like many on this list, it just kind of rattles around in my head randomly. If you're not a fan of Persona 4, this track might not do anything for you, which I perfectly understand. A combination of exposure to the very particular style of the game's OST and nostalgia are what keep this one firmly on the no-skip list. Every OP for Vinland Saga is legitimately good, but this one stands above the rest for me. This is the one that gives Tombi a run for its money in terms of what would be the smoothest sounding track on this list. Every OP in Vinland Saga is reflective of what's happening in the story when it comes to the vibes, tone, and lyrical content, but River comes in at a pivot point in the show's storytelling. It also caught me off guard since the previous two OPs were way heavier genre-wise. Anonymous has a beautiful voice that carries you along through the track, and the lyrics being in English do a great job of making sure just about everyone can digest the song's meaning and how it relates to the story. I love this song so much that when the fourth OP Paradox began, I found myself disliking it because I just wanted to keep hearing River. I did come around on Paradox though. This and Tombi are among my favorite OPs of the past couple of years. Man with a Mission is a pretty consistent band in terms of what they put out, and this track was my first introduction to them. The mixture of standard instruments you'd expect alongside the stringed instruments that creep in before the chorus on top of the bonkers visuals do a solid job of preparing you for how weird and dark the show ahead can be. The chorus is easily the most memorable section with some very strong lyrics, but it's also fun to just sing along to Hit Me on the Ground over and over. I quite genuinely dislike Tokyo Revengers nowadays, almost as much as I hate King's Game, but even I can't deny how good this OP is. The way the drums and bass line are in lockstep put out such a funky rhythm that immediately gets your head nodding. The light piano work on top of that adds something of a jazzy feel while the vocalist does his thing. It's the same kind of OP like Feed the Fire where I really wish it was attached to a better project because the song itself is solid. The visuals are okay, they're not bad, but compared to other things on this list they're just very plain. Still, the song makes it worth it. And that concludes the list, though knowing my luck I'll remember something I meant to add way after the fact. Once again, if you don't see one of your favorites here, I either haven't seen the anime or I just didn't like it as much as you, which is okay. Art is subjective and what I like, you might not. But now that I'm done talking, let's hear a few words from the patron that requested this video topic, Scrub0.
For me, anime openings are a key part in getting me immersed into what I'm watching. It introduces me into the world of the series and makes me imagine that I'm a part of the story and the adventure myself. It's not only the scenes, but the music, when you account for the melody and the lyrics. Draws out certain emotions in me and gives me a lot of energy that I otherwise wouldn't have. Makes me visualize myself beyond just the opening credits though, and I become one with the world essentially. I'm like one of the characters in it too. And one of the openings that does that for me is the opening Ichire no Hana. That's the third opening in Bleach. This song's by High and Mighty Color. I love this song. There's a lot going on with it. the lyrics to tell basically a person being only one of themselves, like it's just one of them, and the other person and another person wanting to protect them no matter what happens, what good, bad, indifferent with the rest of the world. I will ultimately stand with you, so can't have you giving up here on me now. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's essentially what I get that you get out of the lyrics. And then you apply that to Ichigo and Rukia and how he went on this venture to Soul Society to save her after her basically saving his life. You put all those things, everything that happens from her saving him to Ichigo ultimately fighting her brother Byakuya and finally getting through to him and beating him. It's a hand in glove fit. It contextualizes everything that goes on pretty well in the series.
Thank you again to Scrub Zero for the request and support, as well as a huge shout out to the rest of these wonderful people for their continued support on Patreon, with a special nod to Zero's Celestial Tier peers, Super Sunset and This One Sneck. If you'd like to have a portrait and see your name in the credit scroll, or even join the Celestial Tier so that you can decide on a video topic, head on over to the Somewhere Past Never Patreon page. Link will be in the description and on the end card. What are some anime OPs you refuse to skip? Comment below and let me know. Remember to take care of yourselves and others. I hope your days remain or become Saturnian, and as always, thanks for watching.